Cleaning parts. Ooh, taking the scary out of that, one bike at a time. But hey, we came across a situation on this particular bike I'm working on, and I ran it through the ultrasonic cleaner with kind of some older fluids and so forth, and it did not clean very well. So if you're having problems with your ultrasonic cleaner not getting the best results possible, well, you know how it is when your vacuum cleaner is all whacked out and not sucking anymore, and it just sucks. Well, yeah, you got to clean it all out. Yep, replace the bag or empty it out and cut out all the long hair that's tangled up and all that. So you got the same kind of concept except for the hair. Well, maybe in yours, I don't know. But in the ultrasonic cleaner. So what I'm going to do is basically refresh the tank and show you my best practices as that, and also re-washing these and seeing if I can get them to really just get that grime and gunk to come off. Between the heating element of ultrasonic cleaner and also a lighter cleaning solution, which I use Simple Green, and we'll see if we can get that. But there's a couple of little chemicals that kind of get a little more aggressive with, but let's just dive into this and see if I can get these parts to shine like they're supposed to shine after this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe.
Time to drain the tank. Yep, let's get into this. A little bit of safety always helps because you don't know what kind of gunk is in here. Yeah, it has gotten kind of more than dirty. And for me, I have added a hose type thing. We'll set this aside. So, actually I didn't need to do that, never mind. Add a hose to the side so I can just do it right into a bucket below. And I've added a little counterweight to keep the hose from flipping up and spilling all over the garage floor. And my counterweight is a 4-pin freewheel remover tool for BMX. Haven't worked on very many of those, and if I need it, I know where it is. So, repurposing different tools. Make sure it's unplugged when you do this, and there's a little lever on the opposite side here that gives us a good stream. You always want a good stream when you're draining a tank. That applies to a lot of different things. Yes, I did say that. While that is draining, I take a couple of my empty, that's the new one, couple of my empty bottles that I've acquired, and I fill them up with hot water, partially to flush and also to refill it. On these, here's this little indentation. That's pretty much the height line that you want to try to get your fluid at. Mine was a little bit low because I was putting in some bigger parts, so it actually basically raised. The water got higher, and I didn't want it to overflow, and I've had that happen before. So keep mindful of how big a volume of the parts are you going to be putting in there to clean to offset that, because you may have to scoot some of that fluid out of there. I start off with just hot water, and then I'm going to treat the parts and put them in concentrated baggies of Simple Green to just get at it, get her done. The reason being is whatever's on those parts, definitely the heating element with hot water, with the heating element with ultrasonic cleaner is going to help shed that stuff off. So without further ado, let's get some more fluids while that's draining. Also while it's draining, I like to take a little brush and kind of whoosh it. You'll have the settlement on the bottom, which is like a black goo sometimes. And also like to put a little block under the other side to tilt it so it aids for that drainage to the side. This particular Crew Works has kind of a strainer type deal at the bottom, so got to kind of make sure that's free from any kind of debris. So once I got most of the ugly water out, then I kind of flush it out with hot water, just about an inch worth of water on the bottom at a time, kind of just flushing the whole system out, and it also flushes the hose. I don't want any of that weird gunk to be in there. Sometimes you'll get some weird contaminants that won't go down to little holes, so you need to get that out there. Once that's flushed out, then I wipe it down, then I reflush it with new fluid. This is where I take that rag and just kind of wipe off everything, get that block out so I can set it up. and just clean everything off. And then I make sure I close my valve and take my hose and put it back where I had it. Kind of like a little, there we go, place, and then I dump out the water. So make sure it is still unplugged and the valve is completely on the off position before doing this, or you're going to have a hot water mess on your feet. And believe me, it's not going to feel good in flip-flops, so I want to make sure that's good. The reason why I like to do too is, time. Time is, I'm always trying to be efficient in everything I do. And that we're always, when you work in any service department or any retail, any of that, you pretty much start the day, every day, and every task you do is like, how can I do better? What can be done to be more efficient? And at the day, there's nothing you can add to make it more efficient. That's the most efficient it is at the time being. But if you periodically tell yourself that or ask you those questions, that's usually the best thing. Now, I have about one more, or about a half a bottle's worth, which I'm going to fill up, and then we'll proceed to prep the parts and get them ready. So since I'm going to be doing smaller parts, I know I'm not going to completely fill the void of the tank, so I'm going to get pretty close to that line for fill rate, and then we should be fine there. Okay, so right about there. So now I go ahead and plug it in and turn it on. And what you'll see here is it already will register what kind of temperature the tank is already at 49 Celsius. I run mine at 50, so I just turn it on so it keeps it at that level. And then I start prepping my parts and put them in the tank. And to keep the warmth in, I'll put the lid on there and that kind of thing. So let's prep the part and show you what I do to try to get those things clean as possible. All right, so I'm going to use the baggie trick, and I'm going to put each one of these in its own little bag. So the cassette in one, and I'm going to fill that up when I have it over there. The chain rings are too big for the bag, so I'm just going to, actually, are they? I'm going to find a bigger bag. That's it, found a bigger bag. So this is going to be in there. The front derailleur, there's nothing really to disassemble, but you want to scrape this kind of crap out. So that just gets in the way, and we'll show you on the rear derailleur. And believe me, I put this through the cleaner good 15 minutes, and it did not, it took some of the stuff off. You should have seen it at the beginning. It was horrible. And then I put it in this baggie, so for concentrated. And now, lo and behold, the rear derailleur. Well, this has a whole bunch of, small parts and so forth. I really want to get the jockey pulleys clean. So by doing that, I'm going to disassemble the jockey pulleys. You can disassemble this all the way down if you feel comfortable of doing that. On this particular tune-up and time constraints, I am only going to remove the jockey pulleys. And you want to make sure which jockey pulley goes to which one, and the little bits. And I'm not going to need the strainer on this one due to the fact that I'm going to be just putting it in the bag with the rest of the derailleur. But so you got the pulley, the covers, sometimes there's some washers in there, and the shim that goes over the bolt. So that's one pulley. That's going to be put in there. And then we proceed to the second pulley. And repeat. Get the bolt in there. And see how gunky? I mean, that did not clean that off. I'm just like so frustrated with it. But in any case, we're going to attack it with heat and concentration. So I got that pulley free. And the two covers and where the bolt fits in. Okay, so this is where we could pre-treat a little. And by pre-treating, make sure my coffee doesn't get contaminated, is carb cleaner, brake cleaner for white lightning, clean streak white lightning from white lightning. That usually works. And you want to kind of just get this to come through. You can use harsh kipples. If you want to use something a little less aggressive, I suggest you use something from like lithium grime wave. This is used on internal car engine area block to clean, so you can spray this and let it sit or aid it to brush. And you probably should use this kind of stuff. I mean, this will probably eat some decaling. So if you're worried about decals and logoing and all that kind of stuff, that's the case. So we want to pre-treat this, but this is just gunky. And also, rear derailleur is the most used. I'm going to use a little more concentration to get this stuff here a little more free. But I do shoot for the spring area. I try to get this cleaned out and flushed with new lube. And there we go. That feels a lot better pre-treated. Put that in its individual bag. And now for the dunking. You ever gone to those carnivals and you always wanted to do dunk tank? Well, this is a version of that. All right, so open up the container here. And what I'm doing is, gonna pour concentrated simple green, fresh bottle. And I don't have to make it overflow, just enough to submerge the parts, mostly, because you think the vacuum of the water is going to push it up, so you don't have to go too crazy. And some of these bags will eventually start leaking, which is fine because I'm eventually just dump it out in the tank, so I'm not too worried about that. So that one's good. So you want to prop these up so they don't fall over and spill, or you close them while you're filling the rest of them. And I do about 1:7 ratio in the tank anyway. So I figured about 1/3 of the bottle being used on this will prep the tank for the rest of it. And this one probably don't need much because it's a flat surface. Like so. And then I'm ready to submerge. The closer the parts get to the bottom, the more intensity the ultrasonic will work. So you can see my bags have volume in them of air, so you want to press the air out, then tighten it down. So I'm going to put the chain rings in the bottom. Hopefully that'll do its magic, and that's the front derailleur. And I'll probably do 10 to 15 cycles, and for each cycle I will agitate the bags, move it around like so, and see if they're doing what they're supposed to do. So you can see how I got the volume up, and actually it goes up a little over that line. So there we go. Now we're going to start cooking and see what happens. So note, when I'm actually cleaning stuff or putting an ultrasonic cleaner, I'm doing other things. Like in this case, I'm cleaning the tires on this bike or getting them ready to be cleaned to be installed. A little trick, side note, weird thing is I have these tires and they're knobby, and to clean them, you know, it's really hard. So I have the scrub and I put it in the shop sink and I scrub it, and I'm going to leave it on these dummy wheels. Basically they're trash, and I just overlapped them, and then I'm going to throw it in the tune stand and get some Armor All and spray these down so they're actually nice and clean and revived to the newer state of tires, so they look great when they get put onto the bike. But back to the parts. Let's check this out. Whoa. Gotta watch out for flooding. So you got this. I'm going to agitate it so you can see the simple green is starting to darken, which is a great thing. That means it's actually doing its job. And then looking at the front derailleur, hopefully it's getting all that gunk off. I can start seeing it's getting shiny in there. And then to the rear derailleur, yeah, I'm starting to see some definitely improvement and darkening there. Okay, let's check out the chain rings. The chain rings, that's where I got really grumpy with, because it just wasn't wanting to cut out all that stuff. So we're going to flip those So face down this time, and everything's agitated. My water is still fairly clear, but you can still see some green leak through the bags. Eventually it'll leak anyway. But let's give it another 5 minutes and see what happens there. So while it's cleaning and finishing up its second cycle, look, I'm multitasking and definitely getting these tires to be more of a new look. So after using Armor All or a tire cleaning agent to clean the nose knobs, look at that. So, you know, keep doing what I do, right? All right, let's check these parts. All right. Let's inspect. The rear derailleur is my most concern. So, wow. So we got some definitely better clean. Maybe a little bit there. And little bits. Yeah. So, just for giggles, I do it one more time and massage these. Get that fluid to move around the front derailleur, rear derailleur, that kind of thing. Close that up. Try not to splash my toes again. And looks like it's helping with the chain rings. You know, I can scrub them with the scrubber. Actually, we can do that now to see if I get that to come back to life. So open that up. And sometimes you need to see, like you have that gunk right here. You know, just get that off. And when you get that off, then it cleans a little better and it'll take care of the rest. So you just get those chunks off. And just making sure you get both sides. So that one is good. Let's see what kind of ugliness we have here. So it's starting to get shiny, right? But underneath that crank arm, that's where it gets really caked up. And get that all clean, like so. And there we go. So I'll need to vacuum that one back up again, as long as the rear derailleur. And we should be ready for its next cycle. But before I do that, I got some bolts I want to add to this. So I noticed my chainring bolts and the bolts I have that go on the frame was not cleaning very well either. So I'm going to put it in the front derailleur one because there's no other parts and what have you in there, like the rear or the cassette. And then prior to putting it in, I'm going to take a little bit of carb cleaner, give it a good little juice. Make sure you wear gloves and safety glasses when you do this. And then don't inhale the gunk, because the gunk will not be good for you. There we go. Let's do one more 5 minutes and see what we get. And I'll keep proceeding with my tires. Well, there we have it. I got my wheels done. Yeah, well, I'm waiting the last 5 minutes. Look at that. You know, so 15 minutes I'm cleaning tires and installing and all that. So yeah, efficiency. So that's what makes the ultrasonic cleaner so awesome, because I'm not standing here like babying it and scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. I can do other things like this. So let's take a look and see where we're at, and see if we're ready to do the rinse. All right, so we're gonna try not to dump it on my toes again. I like hot water, and there's all my bits on that one. So I probably did a good job. Oh, I can see the cassette just starting to get really clean. And this one here has the derailleur parts. Let's pop that open and take a peek. We're looking at there. Whoa, look at that. Definitely a lot more shine to the derailleur. Absolutely. So I think the rear derailleur is good. So we're going to gently pour this out, but not lose any of the bits. I have that poly screen kind of thing put on the bottom that helps with losing track of parts and stuff. So then I'll just put this in the shop sink and rinse it out. Same thing with cassette here. And just pour that. Whoa! Yeah, see, got a flood going on there. So like I said, yeah, could use a little more loving. Let's see, you got some of that caked up stuff. I should have done this beforehand on the second pass. And these particular cassettes, the Ceram ones, will have a micro Allen, which I have, whoop, not that one. It's micro Allen to go right here. It's like a 1.5 almost. That tightens up the cassette. Sometimes they'll loosen up. You can put it all back together, but it just keeps it all in one spot. So that'll probably rinse off just fine. So we don't need that bag. This one has the front derailleur. We want to inspect that. See where that caked up stuff is? It's all gone now. So that's good. So another thing you can do too is when you have a whole bunch of little bits, put a little screen thing like that. Then you can just pour all those little bits in that screen thing. Should get all of them in there. And then you can do the rinse on that or cook them again in here. And last but not least, the chain rings. So I can just open this bag up, let it all out. And there we go, super, super shiny. There we go. So that's the bag trick. I'm gonna just rinse these off. And this is another trick here. So I'm gonna take the main body out and the arm, do the same thing. Make sure I have that little strainer in there. And I can just pour out all my little pieces. So here we can do another cycle, or we can just rinse them off. And the diluted version, so might be a pre-rinse. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to rinse them, and then we're going to show what we have. You can see now how it's a little more flush to the top. There we go. 5 more minutes and we be done. Well, at least for this part. So this round, instead of working, I just got myself another cup of coffee. Yeah. So that being said, I don't have to do the full cycle. I just figured to do it for a few minutes. And here is basically your polluted tank that has all those bits in it. And then we're gonna do a little rinse. I put it in, I have a shop sink, so we'll go take a look at that now. So I use a tray to transport it so it's not like totally dripping all over the floor. And this is how I do it. First, I want to grab my little bits so I don't lose them down the drain. Make sure I get those rinsed off like so. Then I'll dry them off by hand. The bigger items, and I rinse off individually. And I do have brushes in here, so if I need to do some extra scrubbing to make sure they're clean, I can. Like for example, the cassette. So you can really get in there and get that really good and clean kind of thing. And also the derailleur. You have some stubborn bits, but that really helps you get all that little extra gunk done. And once they're rinsed off, I do it with hot water. Put it back in my tray so I'm not making slip hazards all through the shop, and go back to the bench. All right, this is where I shake out all my parts and inspect. And as we got this one a lot shinier, and I shake it out to get all that water out as much as I can so air dries. Oh yeah, this has that weird clamp. Gotta make sure I don't lose those. Inspect that and see it's all shiny, and those little bits, that's where the concentrated really helps. But you got to watch out for finishes. Like I said, it's brought back to life. Then you got your lock ring and out ring, and sometimes that cleaner will clean off the numbering and stuff, so you got to be careful of that if you're worried about it. And then here's that derailleur. That didn't come out so shiny, did it? But Maybe I could throw a little polish on there to buff out that. But I got the dirt off. That's just like a stain that happens. So I can probably throw it in there and see if I can get that to come out with another cycle by treating it. So that's something I could do. Now look at these outlet chain rings. I mean, see, boom, super clean. This is what you want to present when somebody picks up their bike. Their chain rings completely clean. And then I have a little host of bits between derailleur, jockey pulleys, all cleaned up. That's all good. Remembering which one goes to which. There's that band clamp that goes to that front derailleur. And sometimes you need to, re-scrub some of these. It's really hard to get to, but you at least got like the first major layer of grease off. So a lot of this time is just wiping it off. And the bolts are there. So this is where I let the stuff dry. That's why I put it on towels. So it kind of aids that drying process. It's arid here, so in Colorado, so it dries pretty easily. So if you're more of a humid area, you might have to do a lot more wiping down. So from this point, the parts are clean, except for this little guy, which I'll do a little extra polishing. Here it dries, then I will re-lube the pivots on the actual derailleurs and also the jockey pulleys, and make sure these are all dry. And when this gets installed, it's okay to install it dry because the chain itself has the lube itself. But I put grease on the inside of the free hub body, so it's easier to take it on and off. And on the chain rings here, you have the chain ring bolts that are these guys here. You don't lube those. So a lot of times we'll have a Loctite on there because you don't want those backing out. And double check that in the crank arm itself. So basically this is the initial bits of the bike that needs to be reassembled. So while this is drying, I'll proceed to do other things like run cables, cut the cables or what have you, or get the brakes installed. This has new brake pads I need to install. So I can still do other things while this is drying, and once I get to this stage, then I can reassemble once that is prepped. Now for me, I like to detail the frame. I did that already, but that's where I'd add that layer of ceramic slam or like a ceramic coating, let it dry for 10-15 minutes while you're doing other bits and that kind of thing. So you can throw a lot of stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner to clean. You can do it concentrated with the simple green, which works really well. Be careful, though, it'll take off some finishes if you don't mind that. If not, you want to dilute it. I use brake cleaner or carburetor cleaner sometimes to really bust up some of that really tough stuff, but that will definitely take off finishes, so you want to be careful on that. And also using a brush and so forth. So the particular grease that was on this is probably one of those tough grease lubricants that people have used in the past where you can't take it off unless you have a heated element like the ultrasonic cleaner. I remember using those sonic or the chemical tanks to just scrub, and it just smears. It doesn't go anywhere, right? So this case, it's actually beautiful in the sense that it does remove that gunk. In addition to, it works while you can work on other things, i.e. I got wheels behind me that are now ready to go on the bike versus I would have to wait to do that. So for efficiency factor, it's huge. For getting things really clean, it is huge. It really helps some of those shifters to come back to life, which is another big thing in the cycling industry. So yeah, that's a big win. So after a fail on dirty water, well, this is dirty water and it'll cool overnight. If it doesn't get back up to temperature, I wanted to emphasize that you need to sometimes have to use a concentrated version. You can use bags or you can use glass jars. Either or works. The lower you get it down in the tank, though, that's closer to those speakers. That actually does this ultrasonic, and that actually will help you remove more of the concentrated stuff. So I do overload it sometimes with too many pieces. Sometimes it's go light and polite, just a few items, maybe less than what I actually showed in this video to get more concentrated. But then at the end of the day, I did get everything clean to where I wanted to be, where I was failing before. So that's your tips and tricks on how to use ultrasonic cleaner to get those stubborn grease off those parts. But beware, because you can dull some finishes and that kind of thing to be, to be completely forward. But this is going to be a high functioning machine once it's all put together, re-lubed with fresh lube, nothing that's too aggressive, and actually function at its highest ability. But in any case, if you have any tips and tricks of your own that you've done with your ultrasonic cleaner with either bike parts or other parts or lawnmower parts or whatever, hey, please add to the comments below to add to the community. We all here to share and learn, always learn some stuff from those comments as well. And in addition to, I'll put all the information in the description below. So if you need to dive into what I use, how I use it, that kind of stuff, that's down there as well as other videos. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, get this thing back together and go for a ride. Until next time from the garage, have a wonderful day.